"I'm an innocent man. I did not kill Bobby Lambert."
After the execution last night of Gary Graham, a condemned prisoner who did not go quiet.
These were among the final words of Shaka Sankofa, born Gary Graham, before Texas executed him in 2000 for a murder he insisted he didn't commit. The entire case against him hinged on a single eyewitness, a woman who glimpsed the killer's face for a few seconds through a car windshield at night from 30 to 40 feet away. What the jury never heard? 7 other witnesses were at the crime scene. None identified Graham as the shooter. Some explicitly stated he was not the man they saw. Despite international protests and pleas for clemency from world leaders, Texas executed Shaka Sankofa on June 22, 2000. This isn't fiction. This is the American justice system. May 13, 1981. Shortly after 9:30 p.m. in a Safeway supermarket parking lot in Houston, Texas, Bobby Lambert, a 53-year-old white man, was walking to his car when he was approached by a black man with a gun. The man demanded Lambert's wallet. When Lambert resisted, he was shot once in the chest. Lambert died at the scene. Killer fled with $100. Police arrived quickly but found little evidence. No murder weapon was recovered, no fingerprints were found, no security cameras captured the shooting. Police interviewed several witnesses who were in the parking lot. Their descriptions of the shooter varied significantly. A week after the murder, police arrested Gary Graham, a 17-year-old black teenager, for a series of armed robberies in the area. While in custody, he was charged with Lambert's murder. Graham admitted to the robberies, but vehemently denied any involvement in Lambert's murder. He insisted he was with his girlfriend at the time of the shooting. The case against Gary Graham rested almost entirely on the testimony of one witness, Bernadine Skillern. Skillern told police she was sitting in her car about 30 to 40 feet away when she saw the shooting. She glimpsed the killer's face for a few seconds through her windshield as he ran past her car. It was dark. The parking lot was dimly lit. The entire incident lasted less than a minute. A week after the murder, Skillern identified Graham in a police lineup. She said she was positive he was the shooter based on her brief glimpse of his face. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, eyewitness expert, said cross-racial identifications, where the witness and suspect are of different races, are notoriously unreliable. Add in poor lighting, a brief viewing time, and the stress of witnessing a violent crime, and the risk of misidentification increases dramatically. What makes this case extraordinary? 7 other witnesses were at the scene. Some had better views of the shooter than Skillern. Witness Daniel Grady, who was just 10 feet from the shooting, said, "The man I saw was not Gary Graham. He was taller and had a different face." Witness Wilma Amos, who saw the shooter's face clearly, said, "I got a good look at him. It wasn't the man they arrested." Police and prosecutors chose not to call these witnesses at trial. Their statements contradicting Skillern's identification were never presented to the jury. In October 1981, just 5 months after the shooting, Gary Graham went on trial for his life in Harris County. The prosecution's case rested almost entirely on Skillern's eyewitness identification. No physical evidence linked Graham to the crime. No murder weapon was found. No fingerprints matched him. The prosecutor told the jury, "Mrs. Skillern is positive this is the man she saw. What more do you need?" Graham's court-appointed attorney, Ron Mock, had a reputation for providing inadequate representation in capital cases. He called no witnesses. He presented no alibi evidence. He failed to challenge Skillern's identification. Mock's cross-examination of Skillern lasted just minutes. He never questioned the reliability of her identification under difficult viewing conditions. Years later, Mock would be disciplined multiple times and eventually disbarred for providing ineffective assistance to clients. After deliberating for just a few hours, the jury found Gary Graham guilty of capital murder. When asked if he had anything to say before sentencing, the 17-year-old maintained his innocence. "I did not kill that man. I wasn't even there." The judge sentenced him to death. As he was led from the courtroom, Graham turned to his family and said, "Don't give up. I'm innocent." For 19 years, Gary Graham sat on death row, filing appeals and maintaining his innocence. During this time, Graham underwent a profound personal transformation. He educated himself. became a devoted Muslim and changed his name to Shaka Sankofa. From prison, Sankofa became an outspoken advocate against the death penalty and for social justice. He wrote, "I am more than the worst thing I have ever done. I am not the 17-year-old who committed those robberies. I have changed, grown, evolved." Imam Akbar Muhammad said the transformation I witnessed in Shaka was remarkable. He went from an angry young man to a thoughtful, spiritual person dedicated to helping others. Each appeal was denied, despite mounting evidence supporting Sankofa's claims of innocence and inadequate representation. New attorneys discovered the 7 witnesses who were never called at trial. They also found Graham's girlfriend, who confirmed his alibi for the night of the murder. A ballistics expert determined that the bullet that killed Lambert was likely fired from a .22 caliber pistol. The gun Graham used in the robberies he admitted to was a .38 caliber, a different weapon entirely. As his execution date approached, Sankofa's case gained international attention. Amnesty International, the European Union, and several world leaders called for clemency. As Sankofa's execution date approached, his case became a lightning rod for debate about the death penalty, particularly for crimes committed by juveniles. Celebrities, including Danny Glover, Kenny Rogers, and Bianca Jagger, advocated for Sankofa. Thousands protested outside the governor's mansion in Austin. In a rare split decision, the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles voted 3-2 against clemency. Governor George W. Bush, then running for president, declined to intervene, stating, "After considering all the facts, I am confident that justice is being done." The U.S. Supreme Court voted 5-4 to allow the execution to proceed, with the minority arguing that executing someone based solely on a single eyewitness identification raised serious constitutional concerns. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg later said, "If I had my way, there would have been a stay in the Shaka Sankofa case. The evidence of his guilt was thin, and the legal representation he received was inadequate." Even as the execution date approached, Bernadine Skillern never wavered in her identification. "I know what I saw. It was him." Meanwhile, the 7 witnesses who were never called at trial continued to insist that Graham was not the man they saw that night. June 22, 2000. After 19 years proclaiming his innocence, Shaka Sankofa's time had run out. When asked for his last meal request, Sankofa replied, "God's grace and mercy." In his cell, he wrote a final statement to his supporters, "Keep fighting for justice. My execution is a lynching in disguise." At 6 p.m., witnesses were seated, among them journalists, prison officials, and family members of both Sankofa and Bobby Lambert. At 8:49 p.m., after last-minute appeals were denied, Shaka Sankofa was led into the execution chamber. He was strapped to the gurney, and IVs were inserted into both arms. When asked if he had any final words, Sankofa delivered one of the longest and most powerful final statements in the history of American executions. For 6 minutes, he maintained his innocence and spoke about injustice. "I would like to say that I did not kill Bobby Lambert, that I am an innocent black man that's being murdered. This is a lynching that's happening in America tonight. I'm not angry with you. When I see my family, I will tell them I love you. We must continue to move forward and do everything we can to outlaw legal lynching in America. We must continue to stay strong all around the world." At 8:49 p.m., the lethal injection began. At 9:06 p.m., Shaka Sankofa was pronounced dead. Texas had carried out its 135th execution since reinstating the death penalty. Sankofa's execution sparked renewed debate about the reliability of eyewitness testimony and the execution of juvenile offenders. Studies have since shown that eyewitness misidentification is the leading cause of wrongful convictions. This investigation took months of research, interviews with witnesses, and examination of court records. If you believe in uncovering the truth behind America's most disturbing wrongful executions, subscribe now and hit the notification bell. Next week, we examine the shocking case of Lester Bauer, executed for a quadruple murder he always denied committing, despite no motive, questionable evidence, and multiple confessions from others that cast serious doubt on his guilt. Join our community demanding accountability from our justice system, because sometimes the truth emerges only after it's too late to matter.